Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It is absolutely freezing here. It's -2 at the moment, where I am. It's so cold. Um, so first of all, need to say that at the beginning of my previous video, I mentioned how my sister was coming for a visit and we were going to be filming a load of videos together on Saturday, which was yesterday. Unfortunately, because of unforeseen circumstances and Storm Arwen, which came in over Friday night and all of Saturday, it meant that my sister couldn't come. Yeah, the storm caused major problems. It did snow here for about 2 minutes and then stopped, but other places are just like covered in snow, trees fallen, really lot of damage. I think 3 people have died now, which is so sad, because of the storm, and public transport got really disrupted, and it was just like, oh, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it, is telling us that we weren't going to be meeting up. So yeah, we've had to cancel that, which is really, really sad. But hopefully soon we will be able to get together to film those videos for you guys. So we're not saying it's never going to happen. It is going to happen, just couldn't happen this weekend. So what else has been going on? Oh, I went to the Cheltenham Christmas market on Wednesday with my mum and family friend, and it was not good at all. It was so small, and it was not good. But we had a fabulous day getting together, spending time together. I had a lovely lunch out and such. So yeah, it's been a bit of a funny week, and because of the terrible storm, I've had 2 weird night sleeps, because yeah, Friday night into Saturday was just horrendous and I hardly slept, and then yesterday it was just totally silent and I slept for hours and hours and hours. So I've woken up in a bit of a kind of state of mind, because it's gone from one night of hardly having any sleep to the next night of having such a long period of sleep. I was just a bit dazed and confused this morning. But yeah, I'm glad I don't have to work today, let me put it that way. Anyway, because of my what I've been up to this week and Laura not being able to come, that means that I've managed to finish the book I've been reading this week, which is The Murder of Harriet Monckton by Elizabeth Haynes. This is the first book of Elizabeth's that I've ever read, and so I had absolutely no idea what I was going into with this book. Now, I got this because my sister had bought it and she sent me a picture of the blurb on the back and everything, and I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. She then read it and hated it. So now I've gotten around to read it, and so I'm going to let you know my thoughts about this as well. In case you aren't aware what this book is about, Harriet Monckton was a real woman in Victorian England in 1843 when she died. She was about 5 to 6 months pregnant at the time of her death, and there were some suspects to do with her case of her possibly being murdered, but it was never solved. Elizabeth stumbled across her. Oh, sorry, the lighting in today is, the sun is just not wanting to work for me. Let's turn some lights on. There we go, that's a bit better. Hopefully that will help. So Elizabeth came across her inquest documents completely by chance when she was doing research at the British Library. There were only 3 documents that relate to Harriet and her specific case that we're aware of, and they are inquest notes and transcripts and such. And Elizabeth came across them completely by accident, and she started doing some Googling and found that nobody had written about this case, and she found it really intriguing, and she started doing research. And yeah, she was quite perplexed by the case. It's very interesting about the scene where she was found and everything, and the situation she was in and such. And Elizabeth decided that she wanted to write about it. She does talk in the afterword about how she debated for a long time if she'd write it as a true crime or if she would write it as a fictional book. The latter is what she decided to do. So this is a completely fictionalized telling of Harriet's life based on the inquest notes that she had discovered. Just these 3 documents. And overall, I can say, hand on my heart, that I think this is, so far, I'm going to have to do an assessment, obviously my end of year, to absolutely confirm this. Hand on my heart, the worst book I've read this year. Start off, it's far too long. Far too long. The way that it's structured is that we have a prologue where we have the final minutes of Harriet's life. Then we have this massive section which covers about, I'd say, 400 pages, where it spans about 3 years, and it's made up of accounts of the various suspects. So you'll have one suspect who talks from, all of it's in first person perspective of each of those subjects. So you'll get about, I don't know, 5 pages relating from one suspect's perspective, then 5 to 10 pages of another one, and then another one, and another one, and then you've got various dates which show whereabouts in time we are at the time of this being written, or said or recorded. Then you have about 100 odd pages of a diary, and then you have your epilogue. And in the afterwards, Elizabeth talks about how she, the research that she did, the things that she changed, because she changed various birth dates, marriage dates, names, and such, just so that you didn't have 2 characters with the same name to avoid confusion and such. I totally understand those things, and her debate about how she would go about writing this and such, and what happened to the real life people involved in this. And to be honest, I think she talks about how she really hopes that she did Harriet well and for her child, and that Harriet would be really thankful for her writing the book and respect what she had done. And if I was Harriet, I would be bloody pissed at this book, because it's a book about Harriet that is not about Harriet. It's all about these suspects, and they're putting the pieces together. Now, with the prologue, you have these last few minutes of Harriet's life, and the way it's written implies that it was like a suicide thing, which is what police and such thought was the case at first. So the fact that it's called The Murder of Harriet Monckton automatically tells you that somebody has killed her, straight off. No beating around the bush. Use murder in the title and a person and saying of and a person's name, you know that they were murdered. So you've automatically taken out that mystery there. If it had been called something like The Death of Harriet Monckton, or The Mystery of Harriet Monckton, that would then go, oh right, okay, the various questions. It didn't, because it's all written from the perspectives of the suspects. You don't have that investigation element. You don't have you trying to understand the various police and investigators' perspectives. Now, of course, because she's basing it on, or it was inspired by, should I say, the inquest notes, and the inquest notes are not the same as detailed case notes from the police when they were investigating. There's only so much she can do. But then at the same time, she says, this is my fantasy, as it were, fictionalized world where I played about with people, I did whatever I wanted them to do. So she could have done that, but choosing to follow it from the suspect's point of view and how they interact with each other, more than the police get in contact with them, and everything. And there's some really sinister stuff in there, which I'm going to go on to in a minute. It all then becomes about the suspects and not about Harriet and the terrible atrocities that she went through in her life. or at least this fictionalized life, because there isn't a lot known about her. Now there are oh, sorry, hang on, something's just popped on my screen. There we go. Now there was one character who I'm not going to elaborate too much on, but I want to explain how I bet the family of this character, this real life person from Victorian England, were probably really annoyed with this, or if I was their relative, I would be annoyed by this. And that is, there is a character in this who was highly regarded, who in the place where this took place is still highly regarded in that area. And she, in her story, made that person into an adulterer, a serial rapist, a groomer, a child molester. And it's like, where is the respect you were showing that individual person from the past? If there was clear evidence, written evidence in history that that person did those things or was accused of those things, I can totally understand you taking that route for a character, you know, to do with them. Totally makes sense. But if you have no evidence of that, then saying this real life person was a serial rapist and a child molester and think that that's okay makes my stomach turn. I can't help it. I just that really puts a bad taste in my mouth. And as I said, this book was meant to be about Harriet and what happened to Harriet, and to tell her story and to keep her memory alive. And she is almost like the footnote of her story. The kind of thing that I hoped that this was going to be, or I thought that this was going to be, kind of like an Inspector Calls. My favourite play ever is an Inspector Calls, where a family are having a meal and an inspector turns up to let them know that a woman had died on the way to at the infirmary, having drunk bleach, and she's killed herself. And he starts asking questions, and you realise that she has the connections with this family, and it goes from an evening of, you know, rich champagne, celebration, elaborate stuff, to dirt and grit and grime and screaming and swearing, and it's just an astonishing bit of writing. And she has the character of Eva Smith, who has died, has such power in that piece, and she's never seen. That is one of the most extraordinary techniques of using a character who we never see, and having her be the catalyst in this story, not the inspector who the story is named after. That is brilliant. That is what I hoped this book was going to be, and it wasn't. And I honestly feel like this book has done a disservice to the case of Harriet Monckton. In the notes as well, Elizabeth mentions, she says, right, this is Elizabeth's afternote. When you're dealing with real people, it's very easy to get distracted by details of their lives. I love finding out all about them. One of the ways in which I tried to investigate from the distance was by researching all the suspects of Harriet's murder, not just to see if any of them had been prosecuted for this offence, but to also see if any had gone to be convicted or suspected of offences in years forward. As a result of that, I found that one of the suspects was also involved in something that, whilst perhaps not criminal, was certainly morally dubious. I'm not going to say too much about this because I'm slipping down that particular rabbit hole as we speak, but potentially it might turn into another book. So it's like, okay, so if she does do that, is she going to be in a way kind of playing God with them like she did in this book? I don't, I just think, especially when you're doing something about true crime, where this was real people that have gone through this, or just any kind of fictional book that's related to some form of reality, you have to respect the reality straight up. You can't screw around with too much stuff. I mean, changing like someone's name so then you don't have two characters with the same name, or changing a year of marriage just so that it would suit because of the positions of characters in certain places. Okay, I can let that go by. Playing God and pinning these attributes of character on people in such a way that slanders them, you're making money off of them. You should respect them, and that's what's really put a bad taste in my mouth. I totally understand about taking a world and playing with it, but to write this and make it kind of seem like it's truth, it just annoys me. It annoys me. If it was a case of right at the beginning of the book, she'd written something to say this is inspired by the documents I found on the case of this woman in 1943, which was never solved. I've changed some names and some birth dates, but please be aware that apart from inquest transcripts, this is entirely fictional. If that note was before the prologue, I would have felt better about what she was doing, because I know then what is fiction, what is not fiction. But the fact that she didn't do that, it just it's just, yeah, it's left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't respect that whatsoever. I don't. I mean, I'm thinking, so let's think about something else where, just to give an example of something else that's related to true crime. So, okay, easy one. Jack the Ripper. There have been so many books, etc., that is written about Jack the Ripper. We know the case, everything back to front, and the stunning book The Five, written by Hallie Rubenhold, which I will shout about to the top of my lungs for the rest of my life, which is, it's just the most extraordinary book, which finally tells the stories of his victims. Those books, great, there's lots of research there. I know it's not like this case where there's not much, but what I'm going to talk about is the backstory of victims and such, because now that we've got Hallie's book, we have somebody who has done that research and written that astonishing book, which is great. But say before that, if you look at various things that have been fictional, like From Hell. There we go, From Hell, the film that was made in the early 2000s, which is not good, but it's not bad, but it's not good either, which is based on the graphic novel of the same name, takes a theory relating to the Jack the Ripper case and brings it to life. But it makes very clear that this is an account which has been written, fictional account which has been written based on a crime and based on a theory. It makes it very, very clear that that is what has happened, what this case is here. So I can accept that. I go, okay, right. And to be honest, From Hell actually does cover extensive research of the case and everything, and how each of the victims were found in times. There's a lot of research in there. They could have completely thrown everything out and just gone, right, this is our fictional world, we're going to do whatever the hell we like, and such. And they went, no, this is the stuff that we know, and then this is the theory that we're going to put here, and it works. but they make it very, very clear where the line between fiction and reality sits. And Elizabeth doesn't do that in this book. And that really, really is upsetting. In other things as well, all the characters, because you have it that everything is written from each of the suspects' perspectives, we don't really get to know individuals at a level that I would have liked. You don't understand really the movements of people. It's constantly, he said this, so I said this, so he said this, so I said this, and it's like, oh my god, I've got 500 pages of this to read through. It was overly long. It was atmospheric to a degree, but then at the same time, it was only in certain scenes when Elizabeth wanted it to be. I didn't like as well, all the men in this are complete shitheads, and that's, putting it bluntly. They're just so obnoxious, and I couldn't stand them. Could not stand them. Even the nice ones were obnoxious. The women aren't all that great either. There's like Frances, I think, is the only one who's like a redeeming good character. And even then, there were things where I went, Frances, really? Are you doing that? There's something that I want to say, but I can't say without spoiling the end of the book. So, but I will say, from a feminist perspective, I know that this is Victorian England and not modern times and everything, but there's many different levels of abuse in this book. And the way in which Elizabeth has depicted an abused woman and what the actions that abused woman took, to me, was so wrong. It was like, it's kind of like she put this thing on this character, and it was kind of like saying, well, this is what abused women think and do and such. And it's like, no, sweetheart, no, that's not it. That's not right. And I know it's her fictionalized world and it's her characters and everything, but it's just like, you've got to be so careful with certain subjects. And I just really felt like Elizabeth was going, well, I'm playing God. I can do whatever the hell I like. I can say what I want to say and do what I want to do. Okay, yeah, it is your fictional world. And so, yeah, you can do that. But there is a fine line when you are covering some of the worst things possible that anyone can do to another person. And to justify it the way she does at the end of the book, no, I'm sorry, no, not accepting that. It's just, yeah, it felt like, I honestly felt like this spat on the case of Harriet Monckton, the real life case, not brought the case to people's attention and kept her memory alive. And that is so sad. It's so sad that is what was chosen to do. I would have preferred this be a true crime book, rather than a fictionalized account, in a way try to pass off as being true. And it's not just Harriet's life who she's played with, the real life person's life who she's played with. Like I said, that character who she made into a child molester and a serial rapist. What right did she have to do that? It just leaves a very, very bad taste in my mouth. So I can't say anything positive about this book. and I'm not going to do a reading because I've only just realised I'm like 25 minutes into this review. So I was going to do a reading, but now I'm not because this has been going on for a long time. So yeah. So a book that is overly long, that didn't do justice to the real case and had so many problems. I can't say anything good about this. So those are my thoughts on The Murder of Harriet Monckton by Elizabeth Haynes. My usual questions, I forgot to do them last time, I'm making sure I do them this time. Would I read this again? No, not at all. Never, ever again. Would I recommend this to anyone? No. 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 Would I read any more Elizabeth's books? Right now, because of what she did in this book, God no. But I've said this before so many times that I can't judge a person's whole writing career on one book that they have written when I've not read any others of their books. So I think it is right that I should try one of her other books, but right now I can't do it. I can't go there because I'm so fuming at this book. I actually left a couple of rant VMs to my sister over WhatsApp, voicemails on WhatsApp, and I swore more times in about 5-minute rant on the first one, because I sent two, than I have that I can ever think of. I was that upset by the end of this book. But yes, that's my thought on that. So yes, I suppose I should give Elizabeth another go, but right now I can't. So, oh, sorry, massive plane going over my house. Perfect timing. So those are my thoughts on The Murder of Harriet Monckton by Elizabeth Haynes. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments box below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Entirely up to you. I'll let you decide. And I'll be back, my thought, with my next book, which is the last one of my challenge for the year. I'm going to be done early December with this challenge, but I think I might buy a few more just to round off the year. So this probably isn't the end, but I will see how I feel. And the last one is Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained by John Milton, a classic book which I chose at random, and it's all written in verse. So yeah, we'll see how I do with that one. I'm kind of scared, but we'll see what happens. And with my sister, we don't know yet when we're going to be meeting up, but as soon as I know, I will let you guys know. And yeah, we're really desperate to film these videos for you guys, but you know, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it, decided against it on Saturday. But oh well, we'll see what happens, and I will see you guys later. Bye.